The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, they, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to mhhseyeswideopen@gmail.com. In the subject line, put Kidnap Moor, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. So with that, we start out with our sister Abkare Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis Corporation and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Daoud Il under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Il Kusu Ra Kush Bay under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patan Amin Ra Bay under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Il, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Il, Kush Amir Bunch Il, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Il, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Il under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Il and Crystal Il, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer Corporation, Freehold Corporation, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. We're still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia Bay, kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey, Eldridge Terran Fisher Il, Marquis Sevion Il under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Il Bay, and Mumi Abube under the purview of Texas, William Barak Ill under the purview of Virginia, Bomani Abidwil Ill, kidnapped by Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Aguaye Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natro Tahuti Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Rennie Bay, kidnapped by Hamilton Corporation under the purview of, Hamilton, Ontario Corporation under the purview, well, actually, it's Hamilton Corporation. The state would be Ontario, and that's that would be a union state, and it's on American soil that is referenced as Canada. And last but not least, Brian George Mills Bay, kidnapped by the employees working through Glades Corporation under the purview of Florida. Thank you very much.
All right, Islam, and welcome to MHHS, Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anna-Ida L., along with my co-host, Ms. Raheem Aleph L.
Peace and love, Moors. Peace and love, Anna-Ida L. Peace and love, Ma, Cujo, everybody.
And Mariah Bay.
Islam, peace and love to all.
All right. We do not have Cujo tonight. I think I got a message saying that he wasn't going to be.
Right.
He was not going to be available broadcast tonight. So it's just the three of us. Before we get started, I just want to let everyone know the chat room is open, and send a big shout out to our internet listeners, family listening over near the corporate construct known as Great Britain, Islam, family over near South Africa, Islam, Japan, Islam, the Netherlands, Islam, Brother Albacet, and also to Moors over near the corporate construct known as Philippines, Islam to the family near the corporate construct known as Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and let's see,
What?
Puerto Rico,
which they call Puerto Rico, right?
Puerto Rico, Panama, Cuba, Venezuela, Brazil, Mexico, and to family that we have yet to connect with. Peace and love. Thank you so much for joining us. And, of course, peace and love and big shout out to our callers. Thank you so much for joining us each week, filling up the phone lines before the broadcast even begins. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So much happening. So tonight's broadcast is entitled "The Ability to Analyze Information is Paramount." I trust that everyone has their American Constitution 1791 out, because that's what the SOTA said. Take out your American Constitution 1791 and read it if you haven't already. Where exactly does Trump fall within the structure of the, quote, government, end quote, as affirmed in the American Constitution 1791? It's surprising, or it ought to be surprising, that he falls under Article 2, executive powers. Now, executive powers simply means that he has the authority to what's the word I'm looking for? Administer the law, but he doesn't have any authority to write any, and he certainly doesn't have any authority to operate in any judicial capacity. Let's see. In fact, the question to ask is, when has all the presidents, past presidents, derived their authority? Barak, the Bush boys, Clinton, Reagan, etc. Has anyone ever checked the supreme law of the land as to the lawfulness of their claim and position? Now, what's amazing to me is that if you read this American Constitution, it talks about there's a president for the United States and there's a president for the United States of America. However, today, the only president anyone is ever talking about is the President of the United States of America, which is where Trump falls. This is not Anna Eve making up anything. It's right in the American Constitution. Article 2, Clause 1 reads, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. Right? That's right there. Article 1, Clause 1 of the American Constitution. Now, in the that was Article 2, Clause 1 of the American Constitution. And Article 1, let's see, Section 3, Clause 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It speaks of a Vice President of the United States and a President of the United States. And it is these entities or these beings, or public servants, I should say, under the powers of Article 1, where all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States, not the United States of America. So now when you start looking at who's running the show, so to speak, who's making all the decisions, this is a one-sided operation going on. However, the structure that has been established is a two-sided operation. Now, everybody needs to remember, because they never say, what's the government? And you got Moors who apparently maybe haven't done their research, because they make this allegation that, well, we need to start our own government. Look, the government here being operated is the Moroccan government. Do your research. This land that they refer to today as America is Morocco. The only portion of Morocco being Maghreb al-Aqsa. Maghreb al-Aqsa means Morocco, the farthest west. The only portion of this land that maintains a semblance of that name is Al-Aqsa. It's a little bit of a clue to the full name of this land, and that it is not America, and the people of this land are they're more Moroccans, because Moroccan and America, both words mean the same thing. Moroccan and America, you just got to do the etymology on it, which Abdullah Mosi Talib Bey has done on numerous occasions. Now, when you look at the structure of the Moroccan government, what's his name? Trump, he's sitting in the seat of the Grand Wazir, this also was broken down and reiterated by Abdullah Mosley Talib Bey on the last class, not the last class, 2 Wednesdays ago, when he did class at the National Theater, and I believe he also has made reference to it in his book, Moors and Masonry, I believe it is, which I haven't seen yet, but we spoke, and he said that he has outlined this in that book, which means that the information is there for anybody who is studying, all right? So now, when you look at where does Trump derive his authority and power, what you're looking at is the president of the executive body of the Moroccan government out of control, literally out of control. Now, what I would like for the people to absolutely keep in the front of their minds is that all powers on this Moroccan soil, all powers, and all powers to delegate, it comes from the people. The people are the supreme authorities. I don't care what Donald Trump or anybody else stands in front of a camera and says. It doesn't matter how many temper tantrums he has. It doesn't matter how many tweets, illiterate and childish as they may be, that he sends out. The bottom line is that the people rule supreme. The people rule supreme. All right, so now you have to go back and you have to look at, because it came out that the President of the United States of America charged of various agencies where the executive body derives the power to establish all of these agencies. I would like to know, because I don't see it in this supreme law of the land, which is the American, I should say the Moorish Constitution, all right? I don't see it. But he has established the Office of Agriculture, Commerce, Defense, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Justice, the Department of Justice, Labor, State, Transportation, Treasury, Veterans Affairs, and independent agencies and government-owned corporations. Now, problem with these so-called government agencies, or I should say what people need to be clear on, is that these agencies are agencies of the United States of America. Even though they carry the title of the United States, they're not agencies of the United States because they're not established for the United States or by the United States. Clearly, they was established by the executive body, which would be the President of the United States of America. The President of the United States of America does not have authority to establish these agencies. And when you look at the names of these agencies, what they have effectively done is imprisoned all of the people. All of the people, because these agencies, they control the land. Which brings me to capitalism. There was a video between a modern European daughter by the name of Nancy Pelosi. I might be pronouncing her appellation wrong or her name wrong. And a college modern, what is it?
Pelosi.
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 All right.
Yeah.
It was a conversation between her and a college modern European male. Now, if you're listening, they appear to be having a discussion using words that meant absolutely nothing. Conversation was to give the appearance of semblance without giving any true information or accountability of the public servant, which she is. In any case, the word capitalist and capitalist society was thrown on the table. And being the scientist that I am, I did the research and found out the following. This is out of the Black Law 4th edition dictionary, page 264. Capitalist is defined as one exclusively dependent on accumulated property, whether denoting a person of large wealth or one having an income from investment. The word has no legal meaning. This is what it says. This is straight out of Black Law 4th edition dictionary. Then I Googled it, and I found this reference, which the source is powered by Oxford Dictionary, and it reads, an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit, rather than by the state. I'm going to read it again. An economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry, that would be your resources, are controlled by private owners for profit. That would be your so-called private corporations for profit rather than by the state. Mostly all of these corporations are federally funded, and the funding is funneled through the state. All right? So the last definition I got is the source is Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, and it reads, an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of capital goods, by investments that are determined by private decisions, and by prices, production, and the distribution of goods that are determined mainly by competition in a so-called free market. So now, this is, you got people running around talking about this is a capitalistic society. This landmass that is Morocco, referred to as America, it was never, ever, ever based on any capitalistic mindset or capitalistic society. However, when you look at these agencies that the President of the United States of America controls, if they have effectively done right under the people's nose, is they have taken control. What did it say? It says an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership. You got private or corporations taking control of all of the resources of the land. Now remember, these resources of the land are given freely by Mother Earth. How can a corporation take control of it and then make through their public servants, mind you, and then make the people slaves to this system that is foreign to this land, and the people are asleep? Literally, I'm not just talking Moors. I'm talking modern Europeans as well. This is being imposed on all of the people. And what's interesting is before this broadcast, I was able to watch this movie. I think it's called The Founder. Amazing. And it's about the McDonald Corporation. When you watch this McDonald Corporation, all right, now, I have been, back in my, watching this now, boy, I realized just how gullible I was. Because when back in my Amway days, they used the McDonald's Franchise Corporation as the model for building the Amway business. And they talked about Ray Kroc and how he put together this formula and And because he put together this formula, he was able to create franchises all around the world. Well, after watching this movie, The Founder, I found out that Ray Kroc ain't nothing but a crook, a thief. Because the original concept for McDonald's was brought to the table by the McDonald brothers, who were just interested in putting forth an idea that they did, and they innocently shared it with this dude called Ray Kroc. Next thing you know, Ray Kroc copyrighted and patented the name McDonald, and the McDonald brothers couldn't use their own name on the business that they originally started. Ray Kroc then stole their idea and then went across the American soil initially and then subsequently overseas and bought up land and then sold it to the so-called franchisees at cost, at a profit, and then charged them a franchise fee where he got a percentage of all their profit. Today, I learned this from the movie now. Today, the McDonald's Corporation, now that remember this is a corporation, is supposedly the largest owner of real estate on American soil. The McDonald's Corporation is a fiction. That's bullcrap. So then he bought out the McDonald's brothers under threat, duress, and coercion for $2.5 million. And then he was supposed to pay them 1% of all profits in perpetuity. But Ray Kroc said he couldn't write that into the contract because he had investors who wouldn't sign on if they saw that. So he could only make the deal based on a handshake. Today, Ray Kroc and the McDonald's Corporation has not paid the McDonald brothers and their descendants one red cent. And because that wasn't in the contract, they claim that it was never there and they never had to pay it. So this concept that Ray Kroc and the McDonald's Corporation put in place is based on capitalism. But what capitalism really means is if somebody can figure out a way to steal your birthright, they can. Sound familiar? We as a people,
Absolutely.
we need to wake up.
Yeah.
We need to stop falling for all of this. We need to stop falling for all of this bullcrap based on this fictitious idea of commerce, because whenever you're talking about commerce, you're talking about capitalism. And if you are a declared Moor, you can never, ever support capitalism because that's all about stealing everybody's birthright right down to their name or their appellation, stealing the food out of their future generations' mouths. You can never be a declared Moor and be down for that. What you need to be is what our ancestors were. We were merchants. We took the raw materials from Mother Earth and we created something out of it, and we offered it out for trade. That's our ancestors. That's our heritage, not this bull crap that these modern Europeans are pushing. And then you look under the agencies of the President of the United States of America, and everything to facilitate that is right there. This can only happen because the people are asleep. And if you're running after greed, If your mindset is ego and greed and let me get mine and forget about you, then you're on the wrong team. You got the wrong mindset, you got the wrong concept going on, and you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So we need to wake up and we need to pay attention and we need to analyze everything. I don't care if your mother brings it to you. You need to analyze it because that's called Moorish science. Islam?
Islam. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to camelback off of what you were saying, that was very well spoken. Going back to the fact that you mentioned McDonald's and Ray Kroc, right? Now, you know that they put many truths in subliminal messages and fables, and et cetera. So they had that old lullaby where they were saying old McDonald had a farm, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, and then they didn't stop there. They went on to go into the vowels. They were saying E-I-O, right? These were the vowels of the L's, right? Going back to land and spells. So you have the fact that we're talking about the same people who took over the land, because what you see with these McDonald's, Burger Kings, things like that, these are the crystallizations of that aspect of controlling the flesh, of selling flesh. Like I said before, the whole market is to the flesh. Like, it's about flesh and other things, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is, you know, we for the most part, we dealt with products that come from the land, and everything is a part of or comes from the land, if you will, that naturally exist here. But there's things that lived on the land opposed to plants. This is what the Europeans were more interested in, was the flesh. So when we talk about chattel, quote-unquote, chattel slavery or chattel property, it's the same thing as the cows. And when you go to, quote, McDonald's, what do you have on the menu? Land deities, you know? So you got burgers for sale, cow flesh, and we don't even know what that is these days, you know, what they're giving you over the counter. Then they have different products they're calling chicken. We know the fish is fake. All of these different things, right? I'm dealing with the land. So farming, this is where the industry is at. We mentioned this before, that the fact that the you know, how they correlated slave, quote unquote, the concept of slavery to activities that free people do, such as toiling the land, producing products from the land. So you have, you know, billion-note industries off of ocean spray and whatnot, and they're making these cranberries off the land and the waters on the land, among other things. But at the same time, you have them also selling flesh that's, you know, a part of this landmass. So the farming, the chattel property, the concept of land, all of this is the foundation or the medium between freedom and servitude. So they're like, look, we took over your land, therefore we have industries. And even though they didn't really, but this is the concept, this is the mentality, or this is what we could see on exhibit on the planet Earth present day, is that they have different stores. Anywhere you go, you can find a McDonald's. Anywhere. I mean, anywhere. We was in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and it was a McDonald's. So what I'm saying is, anywhere you go, they have their signs of industry, and this is all dealing based off of the land. Because whether it's potatoes, whether it's burgers, whatever, everything is from the land. So I wanted to add on to that. But also I wanted to add on to the fact that Trump, this is amazing times because the corporation is in dispute with themselves, whereas their structure is imploding. And I don't even want to say their structure because, as you pointed out, as Brother Abdullah pointed out, is the fact that Trump is acting as the substitute wazir, right? And they don't really have that authority. But while he's in that position, he tried to come in out the gate and get loose with the conquest intent, the pilgrim supremacy intent, all of these things. And these the judiciary branch, is basically saying no, we're not letting this slide. And he put a ban on his stay and things like that. So all of this happening is indicative of the fact that, whatever his intent is may not be widely accepted, and that may be for multiple reasons, because this has worldwide effects. People are doing so many things globally. Like, people are traveling from these places, coming here for acting roles, for shooting films, for business, and vice versa. People are leaving here to go there in those places that were quote-unquote banned, for so many international reasons that it became a problem where everybody is trying to get involved now, And again, this is supremely related to the right to travel. So what I'm saying is what Trump's intentions were, is in the way he went about it, coming into the position. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty much unprecedented. Like, it's just nothing like it.
It's just exposing it.
Huh?
It's just exposing what has been going on subtly, and it's really not subtle. It's just that the people have not known what the law of their own land is, for various reasons, miseducation, etc., like that. Spinning their wheels, thinking that this isn't their land, and and they're not claiming a nationality, so they just went amok because they were able to, and remember, they're the ones who needed to have a place. We're the ones who granted them to exist on national domicile, which is the Moorish government. We allowed them to exist upon it. And then we shut down, went to sleep, for different reasons. Doesn't really matter what the reasons are. And I don't want to cut you, but what's happening is, as we said last week, the right to travel is now absolutely on the table on a global scale, because the right to travel is to go to and fro without hindrance, both over land, air, and sea. So they're having a hissy fit, right? As Annie said. And you finish what you're saying, because I want to add something to bring us up to date on the so-called appeal that was quickly denied, to bring it back, and only to let people know that. And we talked about this before, that people think all the people are thinking, oh, well, they banned the Constitution. The Constitution, is void. The Constitution doesn't exist. For all those people who thought that, yeah, right. It does exist. It's the law of the land, and it cannot be altered. So look at them all hollering for it now and dealing with constitutional principles. But we'll get back to that. Liz, I didn't mean to cut you on that, but I just wanted to say that's what's happening. That's, it's just being exposed how much they've been violating, and they're nervous a little bit. I know people don't believe that, but I think, Liz, and you might be able to add this in to your comments, is that I think people have thought that they had a power. I know people have thought they had a power that they really don't have. It's really in the people themselves. But they thought that Trump and the presidents of the executive branch of this entire government. This government is legislative, executive, and judicial. And everybody has thought that, that all the power was right here in the executive, as the president of the United States of America can only execute law. That's why you have to go to Article 6. It tells you right there, and Article 3 as well. But they can only execute that which is. They cannot create law. But because we didn't know any better, as soon as they say it's the law, we like dummies believe it. So I think it's being exposed now to wake everybody up to what they need to do. That's what's happening. Islam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And the real issue is this. This is the bottom line issue. Like, if we just cut to, just keep it raw, and it is what it is. The bottom line issue is this. All right, so hold on. Let's keep it in perspective. Mm-hmm. They're basically saying what Trump is doing now is what Obama already lined up. I'm not aware of that. It seems like certain things that Trump is doing is directly opposed to what Obama did, except a few things. Mm-hmm. And I can't say I know them all, because for the most part, there hasn't been that much publicity about it, like how Trump having publicity. Like, he came out swinging. Now, oh, he did, though. He did. But this is the thing, though. It's not working like that. And the bottom line argument is this. Just the raw truth is this. Yeah. So you are talking about, here we are, right, looking at a lineal descendant of modern Europeans, right? Literally, his mother literally was an immigrant to the land of North America. His mother, let that sink in, right? So Trump's mother was an immigrant. Father likewise, all right? And they went into this whole prima facie de facto, real estate thing, So again, that's the conquest. Because like I said before, conquest, when they're trying to conquer, it does not always have to do with bloodshed. That's not always the case. They're dealing with buying people out. They're dealing with prima facie claims to things that don't belong to them. So, when you look at his parents, and them being immigrants from Europe, how does it slide on an international level that Trump, who is a lineal descendant of modern Europeans, has the right to ban anybody from the land of the Americas? How did that get accepted? Why doesn't that have a primitive radiation of truth in law? Because in reality, that's the truth. These are pilgrims here in North America, or the land of the Americas, post-1492, right, who are now talking crazy as if this is our plural country. And it's not. It's not any type of racism. That's not any type of hate. That's natural law. That's just what it is. We are not the same. It doesn't matter where you came from. These people are Europeans. Like, that's the bottom line. Now, that's just what it is. So how did they get into the position to say we're going to put a wall through your land, right, and then block out your people, and then at the same time, certain people who don't understand about nationality, they're like, oh, that's the best thing Trump could have did, because the Mexicans, they're taking our jobs. Because they'll work for, $3-4 less than we will. And it's like, no, get off the slave mentality. Be productive. Let them do what they do, because it's not a restaurant that you go to eat to. That's mainstream commercial restaurant anyway, shall I say, for the most part, because, there's Moors who have their restaurants all over North America, all over the earth. I'm talking about these mainstream restaurants in the inner cities. For the most part, they got quote unquote Mexicans in the kitchen, chefing it up, and they run the kitchen. Right? They like from the grease cleaner to the chef, to the line cook, to everybody. Like it's a Mexican kitchen for the most part. So you're looking at them doing what they do. Moors, certain Moors who don't know they're Moors are mad, or because they feel like Mexicans are taking their quote slave positions, in all reality, and it's just a sickness. So at the same time, though, the reality is like, no, there's Moors that come from that area. Everybody who's here, like, because you got to remember, they did a whole phenotype discrimination. So meaning that, a lot of people that come from, quote unquote, Mexico or whatnot, modern day borders considered, their phenotypes, they usually allow the more light olive ones in, and then there's some who've always been here, and they're melanated like all of us on this line right now, and even speaking of that, I don't know if this is a theory, but well, I would say it is a theory, but it makes sense to me, right? Trump's whole legacy, based off of Moors, you got him, and I mentioned this multiple times, but put this in perspective, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. But this is just my perspective. Trump has a legacy based off of Moors. Trump Taj Mahal. Now, he has this set up on the shores of North America, right? And all of this went bankrupt. But we talk about the fact that, okay, we're not black people. We say, well, we're not, since we're not black people, we're not African Americans, Negroes, coloreds. Some feel like they can meet on the level with saying that they're melanated. And then others are like, nah, well, it's not even melanin, it's carbon. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, what has been known as melanin, correlating with Moors in this whole Trump legacy, his wife's appellation is Melania. Think about that. Melanin, Melania. I see a correlation of the jacking of the position of Moors, consistent with the fact that you mentioned what Abdullah mentioned about them being, Trump being a substitute wazir. And then Trump having the Trump Taj Mahal, which is a Moorish appellation, and then a wife with the appellation Melania, Melania, all of this, to me, kind of correlates, even though she's not melanated, she's not a Moor, she's not, but I just see that this is a pattern of the Europeans. So he's coming in, and he's like, trying to strong arm or just, completely go in with the conquest intent or following up with trying to seal the deal with the European legacy of conquering the world. And their own is like, no, you can't do it in this fashion. So he's being sued by multiple quasi-national domiciles and the higher-ups of saying you can't get this off either. So we're in some interesting times, and I just, like I said, I personally think, I don't even want to say personally, I honestly think that we are witnessing, like we definitely are witnessing the final collapse of this corporation. I could be wrong. There could be some ugly things that go with that. Hold on. There could be some ugly things that go with that. I don't think, it's as bad as it appears, but I think we're in the times now where we're about to see all of those people who said they were separatists and all of these things, and they didn't want to deal with the European and all of this. We're going to be in the days where you're going to have to show and prove that we can survive without that structure, because it's going to fall on itself. It's going to close. It wasn't even 5 years ago where the so-called government closed for one day based off of a debt deal that they couldn't reopen the government because they so-called government anyway. Let me be very clear. The U.S. Corporation closed, and it was so ill because when they closed, being quasi or being artificial, they closed down, quote-unquote, national parks. All of this happened while they couldn't reach a debt agreement because they were scriptsy. This is what Trump is representing. It's nothing new to the history of the United States or the United States of America or the U.S. or the Union States, anything that our ancestors didn't call a land. They went through this multiple times. Because remember, when the Great Depression happened and all that collapse that happened, that mainly affected Europeans, not Moors. It affected Moors who were attached to that European society. Moors who had invested their life trying to, not be producers but workers for pilgrims or foreign nations or contributing their energy there. That's who it affected. But for the Moors who were like, we don't wish to amalgamate on any type of level, mental, physical, metaphysical, with the pale-skinned nations of Europe, they were doing very fine. And that's a fact. They were doing very fine. So we look at this all that happened. The main thing that happened is that it affected Europeans. These were the people who were committing suicide. These were the people who were jumping out of windows because they weren't getting that lifetime check they thought they was going to get after they worked 40 years on a plantation that upgraded its station to a factory. So it went from plantation to factory. So at the factory, they got $10.25 an hour. On the plantation, they was getting 75 cents an hour plus room and board, all right, and cabinet and all that. But when they got to the factory, it was like, here go $10.25 an hour. Now, you accumulate this and do what you got to do to get your room and board. We're not taking care of you Negroes no more, quote unquote. And I know we're not Negro, black, and color. I'm speaking from the perspective of how they got on it. So they created industries because they had the Negro or the nigger industry, which was based off of chattel property, which was they utilized human beings or, for the aspect of what we call human trafficking industry for the Democrats or the demon crafters, modernly known as pilgrims or Europeans, who are on public record impersonating Americans or Moroccans. So these are people who are not even American, because America is north, south, central, trying to put borders on the land. And it's like, well, where's the true Americans at? Let's not even don't talk to me about somebody in Germany coming to save you. What are the Americans, our Moroccans, doing to fortify their natural boundaries? And when I say that, I'm not putting any type of burden on Moors who have been active and saying this is all their fault. No, I'm saying that those our Moroccans, Americans, Moors who have been asleep, thinking that they're Negro, black, and colored, and not understanding why nationality is important. You understand? Because everybody do these rallies, do these marches, and all of these things. That same energy was put into nationality and birthright. We'd be a lot better off. So, so-called black people who are thinking they're doomed because Trump cut off something with the so-called federal government, so now they can't get their quote-unquote highfalutin jobs, their Negro type positions. And again, I'm saying that because of the aspect of those who think they're better than thou, who think they're holier than thou, and are proud in their aspect of how they work for the European and how the European is basically, their salvation, and look down on those who don't see them like that. So now Trump came in, he clipped their connection, or tried to anyway, clip their connection to working for this pilgrim. Now they're seeing the effects of, these people not really caring about their person and station. And I don't mean to ramble on. I just wanted to put that in perspective. And for now, I yield the floor. Islam.
Islam. That goes with, if I can comment on that, when you just brought in about the people who have been having, the good jobs, what they call good jobs, and getting an education, and that's what I find is attempting to be active now. And it's unfortunate because, as you said, they spent a lot of their time working, with they received a good education, they got their BA, their MA, their PhD, all this stuff, and they had the jobs, and now they're finding that they don't have none of that. And so they're going to try to intellectually approach this problem and get involved in what they think was political and economic. But first of all, political is family. That's number one. That's why people say, we're not involved in politically. And truthfully, we haven't been, because we're so splintered thinking we're something that we're not acknowledging that we are family. And because that's what nationality is. And once you claim your nationality, that determines your political allegiance. So you've got all these educated, so-called educated people who think they're now going to get politically involved and also get involved with the answer to the problem. And, they're coming up with all these processes. But what's sad about it is they don't realize that they're not equipped for it. They have never been equipped for it. They can't even have the conversation until they go back to school and learn. When I say back to school, I don't mean to their school. Sit down and study and truly learn due process of existence, due process of civilization, due process of law. And so now they're finding themselves caught there, and because they think they were so, as you said, doing well, it's hard to take that pill. But as it says, those who are in certain positions will be the first to be unseated. Like in the King Alfred. Well, literally, it doesn't just mean the so-called civil rights leaders. It means those people. We're watching them be unseated. They don't realize that's what's happening. But like you said, they got the boot too, because this is a dying corporation. It never was a government. And so just to accept that fact alone it shows how much we have not been educated on, and how much we have been really still bureaucratically enslaved. And that's why we say it's a difference between a slave and being enslaved. But that slavery, if you will, is really mental. Because once you have knowledge, then, you come right out of it. It's a mental slavery. And it's a lack of knowledge and getting, and Joshua said that before. So it's interesting that they kind of coming up to the plate, but they don't have all the answers. They don't. They're still trying to hold on. But it is interesting that what we really need to understand, and I know I'm going to go back to what I thought I understood, and any of us understood in relationship to America. We never made the distinction. We never knew the distinction of the United States of America is not America. The United States of America is of America, but it's not America. It's not the American land. It's the colonists that are operating as styled. You know how they say some club, or even MST are very styled as? Well, this was styled as. The colonists came to be styled as the United States of America. And it's different, and you never knew it was different. If you heard someone say U.S., you thought it was the same thing. USA, same thing. America, same thing. And so those are the first things that have to be, distinctions have to be made to begin to understand what really is going on. Because as you said, they've gone across the executive branch. Now I'm going to say that now because that is really what it is. The reason they're involved is because we brought them into the fold of government here. And so when we broke up, or when we made it the legislative, executive, judicial, we included them to do the executive, included them in to the executive portion of the overall, government. So they have the ability for executive, or as I said, administrate the law. Administrate the law, not make something they call law. So they were included in that, and that's what the United States of America president does. Now, Niz, you sent a great tape or video from the Turkish, what's it called? What is it called? The Young Turks newscast? Is that what I think that's what it's called?
Yeah, Young Turks.
It really breaks it down because they're looking at it. Now, it's interesting, they're saying Turks. Now, we all know that the Turks are Moors, but they're amalgamated. They're all amalgamated in the generations because everyone has become, affected in that way and intermingled. But at any point, the position regarding...
Well, hold on, no.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that they said the Young Turks. Why didn't they say the old Turks? Why didn't they say the ancient Turks? They claim to be the Young Turks. And what Ali told you, the Europeans was going to tell the truth, and others told you that these were your children. So, keep that in mind. Islam.
Yeah, Islam, and that's a prophecy that's definitely coming to light. But the problem with that is, not the problem with that, with some people, it's like, you got to imagine everybody's doing folly. That's the terminology the prophet used. He said no folly, right? He uses that a lot, joking around, playing around, whatever, not being focused, not standing upright, independent, and fearless, etc. And it's almost like, huh? What do you mean? It's like people are waking up. So when you say that, well, this is the truth, if you don't have the foundation of the information, and it is there for you to have, it is definitely not excluded for anyone to gain. They just have to study a little bit or go to some sort of structured class, because not everybody learns by listening. Not everybody learns some people learn by visual, you know what I mean? Really. So what happens is now that this is coming to the forefront, people may be feeling like, oh, my God, I'm so behind. Maybe I need to catch up. Well, yeah, you do, and you can, but this is where other stuff also gets bred from here. But it really doesn't matter, because this is the retribution justice days right here, and we're all going to get that, whatever it may be, across the board. So it doesn't mean that it's too late. It's never too late if you go in that direction. You will end up on the path. But some just don't know what to do. So there's this fear. Now, the fear is false evidence appearing real. And there was a tape I think we played on the show on that movie that, what's his name? Will Smith did, and he was with his son. Excellent movie. Of course, they don't want to give it as much credit as it absolutely deserves, but he explained what fear was. It was a nice little short thing about fear, that it's not real. Danger is real, but fear is not. But this is, a lot of people are feeling fearful only because of the lack of knowing what's going on. And one of the things I just got to keep bringing back to the table, because we've been telling people, and the prophet said, if you do not enforce the law of your land, he said the Constitution, but that's the law of the land, you will be molested. by other citizens, and that is all that has occurred to us. And once you have the problem, then you can easily find a solution and the remedy. However, it was already found and made, but it's just that we understand we're mentally enslaved. We think we're still, walking around talking about, what was done to us as slaves, when really we were walking around being mentally enslaved just by saying it. I mean, just by being in that mode and chasing after this. Now, the states are union states. The state republic, as an example, you have New York State, you have North Carolina State. Those are all the republic. The proper identifiers for the Constitution, or when the Constitution was talking about the republic. But when you have North Carolina State, New York State, and then suddenly you have State of North Carolina, State of New York, that's your indicator that that's the corporation. They are not even hiding behind the fact that once they went bankrupt, and I think that was around 1870, correct me if I'm wrong, they came back up, around 1870, after around 1860 or so, 1870, as corporations. And the trickery and or deceit, without having knowledge, is that State of New York, State of North Carolina, et cetera, is not New York State Republic, nor is it North Carolina Republic, et cetera, et cetera. So all we're saying is if we could know what we're dealing with, then the people themselves is the law. The people themselves are the law. The people themselves are the government, and the people themselves, as you can see is happening now, can turn this whole thing around. Absolutely. But it is also already slated as to what's going to happen. What we need to look at is where are we in this polarity? Because it's going down. It's definitely going down. And as an example, as you said, they're falling. They're done. This is their last cry. It's so obvious. Yes, it's done. So therefore, people who are listening, if they make an offer to you and you accept it, that's on you now. For real, because you know who they are not. And so if we stop giving them that power, they won't have it. Because that's going on now. The appeal thing, we talked about it. The Supreme Court said no, but everybody thinks that the Constitution is dead. Yeah, they want you to think that. They've been having us think that, not even going towards it, speaking on it at all. They have media, news, broadcast all day long, every day, the news and this, and they talk stuff, and they talk out the side of their mouth, and they talk about stuff that doesn't even make sense. It's just talking heads saying anything, but they never tell you much about the Constitution until they might slip something and say, well, it's unconstitutional. It's almost like it's a joke. Like, oh, yeah, that's unconstitutional. Oh, but we're going to do it anyway type thing. Now they're hitting it hard because they want to save themselves too. And that's the only thing that will, because the Constitution is national document. It's not a quasi-national document. It's not a state document. It's a national. So therefore, it automatically becomes what? International.
Yeah.
So now these people, right, they're growing so big, they want to try to mess with the people on an international scale. And we're still sitting here playing in the sandbox. Here comes the rain, and we're like, what happened? I thought it was going to be a sunny day. And it's right on you. You know what I mean? But am I right? It's all about international because it's national. And that's what
it is. This is what time it is right now more than ever, though. Because, you got a lot of people, specifically unconscious Moors, who are sitting on the sideline, like, what's next? And, I don't know if if everybody realized this and I, came to grips with this, I mean, we already knew this, but like family, Moors, like true Americans, our Moroccans, like this is your or our time. That's the bottom line.
I know.
I don't care about that. You can't tell me it's not. You got a pilgrim in office, in a so-called office anyway. You want to say color of authority, color of law, the corporation that has been known to be adverse in certain aspects, to our people in general. And then on the special side, when Moors really put in that work and go in, there's been a lot of favorable results and favorable replies. But for the most part, you got a society who has always been adverse to you in certain aspects. These were the people Noble Drew Ali was talking about when he said, what? He trusts that his people will learn to stop serving the carnal customs of men who have never, like, it's nothing on the record. They've never done you any good, but have always harmed them. And everybody didn't go through that, but these were this group of men or group of people who've always had ill design, ill intent, ill plots for your stop. Even if you want to say, well, miss me, we didn't all go through slavery. Well, that's true. But for you're the poster style of they are interested in. It's like we had this conversation before. You got zookeepers. They got elephants. They got lions, tigers, all of these things. Why do they have them? They have them because they like them. It's not because they hate them. You know what I mean? Like they hate lions. That's why they have one. No. They like these things so much that they had to impose their will upon it to subject it to their will and make it be what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying? Make it have a relationship where what they like so much saw them as a master. And that was also by force, by the whip, by the lash, all of these things. So what I'm saying is this, that those who do go through that subjection, and find themselves in that fight of, resisting the oppression, for lack of a better word, that remember why it is what it is. They wish they were you, right? And that's not something to be braggadocious about. This is just the psychology. So, they wish they was you. And this is why they have to impose their will on you so they can take your position. They need you to relinquish the frequency and the wave that you were on naturally so that they can interject themselves in your position. Not necessarily because they hate you. It's that they love the position that you naturally have.
That's right.
You have to understand that. You have to understand that. And it's not to accept or say that treatment that they give to our people is normal. It's not. You know what I mean? Because, there was times where we were living amongst the animals, but nobody was necessarily, subject or captive of the other. We was living in harmony. And you still see it today, especially on the coast, especially on the shorelines. Go out by the beach, go with a loaf of bread to the beach and throw some bread out. Watch how fast those birds, those seagulls connect to your circumference, all right? So you still see the relationship, and it don't mean you own the birds. It just means that you have something to contribute to the natural ecosystem. And I'm saying that because we still have that connection with nature. There's just different ways of connecting back to it, and there's different examples and evidence that relationship does exist. Whereas you could totally connect with something that can't even speak to you, but show you where it's at through its actions. That's nature. That's that's nature. There's no words. Words are like, not, and I'm not downplaying it, but I'm just saying, a bird can't necessarily tell you, hey, thank you for this piece of bread you threw to me. They can show it to you, though. So there's different ways of communicating and reciprocating natural energy. And again, just because we might feed the birds don't mean we own the birds. It's just a natural relation that just exists. So, all of these things being considered, some people like the birds enough to put the birds in the cage and have bird cages in their house, and the birds are thus restricted from flying, which they were naturally born to do. And it's not because the people don't like the birds. It's because they like the birds, and they wanted the birds to be in their environment. You feel what I'm saying? So you have to understand and check and scan, different emotions and things like that, and how that will put you in different positions, because the parrot or whatever bird is in the living room isn't there restricted from flying as it's naturally meant to do because it was hated. It was because it was liked to a point. It wanted to be restricted and confined and possessed without question. So they created an environment where these things could always be right there and couldn't do anything outside of the will that person imposed on it. And pardon me if there's anybody listening who might have a bird cage with a live bird in it. I'm just giving an example of the reality of what it is. You don't have that because you hated the bird. You don't have that because you considered the fact that the bird wouldn't be able to fly like it's supposed to. It's because you liked it, and that's okay. But the reality is, because of what you like, this bird is not free. It's not born. It's not doing what it was born to do. It wasn't born to sit in the cage. So, with that being said, I'm going to yield the floor right there. These things happen because these things are liked, highly liked. And I'm going to leave it on that note. Islam.
We might want to answer some calls now, but I did want to say, Annie, because we talked about this too. And thanks, Mary. That was a nice demonstration about it. I never really looked at it that way, but that's true about the animals and the attachment and nature and the violations of nature. We have to bring out, I think we already have, that this whole thing where the Trump administration, and if you listen to the Young Turks, they refer to it as the executive branch. They also call it the corporation. You got to really listen to those reportings. But what I'm finding interesting is that Trump, the president, as you guys would say, the president of the United States. No, he's not. He, being the president of the United States of America, had to ask permission. Well, not really ask permission, but get permission. He is sitting there wanting to violate the Constitution. And so the Supreme Court says, no, you're not going to do that. So we have to look at it that they have been violating it, and they're still trying. So it's an exposure to all of us as to some degree, what this law of the land is and how it is supposed to operate, or how it does operate. Now, they've been letting stuff go before, but looking at that, and you're thinking he has all this power, but yet, if the Supreme Court says, no, we're banning the travel ban, we're ending that because it's unconstitutional, because it violates the national Constitution. So this is why, again, we have to come out of the mindset, which is what the prophet came and said. You're not Negro, colored, and black. You are nationals, more American nationals. Everyone says that because enforcing the national constitution, you must answer up to your national constitution. So this is exposing that what really operates in this land. But this part that we have been doing for years is to get the people who are the direct lineal descendants of this ancestral estate, your land, our ancestral estate, to become active in these matters of their ancestral estate. And that has to come first by knowing who you are and that you're the nationals here on this land, not foreign nationals. A foreign national is someone who comes from somewhere else, like Italian national or foreign national on this land. They're not giving up their nationality. They'll tell you in a heartbeat who they are. They're not trying to say they're not who they are. Or they're not trying to not honor their mothers and fathers, but they happen to domicile here. So that's how they become foreign nationals. But they're still that. And then you have the subject citizens, which is where corporations are. And you have naturalized citizens. You have, and foreigners, of course, as I just mentioned. The foreigners, they're not necessarily, all foreigners are not necessarily trying to give up their nationality to be here, but these modern Europeans under the colonial United States of America colonies, they're trying to be you. They're trying to be the quote-unquote American national. They're not that. They are a citizen of type of it. So what's happening now reminds me of when the prophet said, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's all going to be in your hands. Because the call of the day is nationality. That's it. And the decolonization act already went through to end colonization, right? So Trump is in there really trying to enforce colonial powers. That's what I think that he's really trying to do, is enforce their intent in colonial powers. And even if he tried to enforce colonial powers, it has nothing to do with you, Moors, in that we're not that. The natural people are not that. We have to know who is who and what is what. So does the Decolonization Act come into play here in these activities, if that's what he's trying to do on this land? Because everyone else knows about the decolonization, which happened years ago, that not act but law. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you explain now? Yeah.
Yes, the United Nations Declaration on Decolonization, I want to say that was put in place, I want to say 48, but don't quote me on it. But in essence, what that is, and see, the decolonization, it is absolutely in harmony with the rights of indigenous peoples, as well as the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights. I mean, yes. Is it human rights? Yeah, human rights, yes.
Declaration of Human Rights. Yeah.
Yes. It's in harmony with those other documents. And basically with the there's just, you have Aboriginal Indigenous people around the world. If they're familiar with the Decolonization Act, and they have already put in various paperwork and documents, to let it be known that they are in the process of decolonizing their land. South Africa, for one, is one of those countries or land, corporate constructs that actually put in and are effectuating their decolonization. Venezuela was backing the what they call Puerto Rico and also declaring their independence and effectuating decolonization. I know a lot of people don't know this because too many of our people, they're stuck on this
this media regurgitation that these colonists put forth, and see the reason that they put forth their propaganda is to make sure that you don't go outside of their propaganda and find out the truth. The truth of the matter is, first and foremost, you have to understand that this is Northwest Africa. All right? So when you talk about decolonizing Africa, you're talking about here as well, because this is Northwest Africa. So, you know, a lot of times people are looking for some way to, you know, kind of come in under various United Nations acts, and they say, oh, you know, we don't have a government here. Yeah, we do. It's called Morocco, and it is also a part of the land that is identified as Northwest Africa. So, and if you look at all of the decolonization, all of these paperwork and documents that have been put out by the United Nations, Africa in its entirety right there. So we're already a part of a lot of things that's already in place. Decolonization means that we as a people, we need to unite. And then as a unit, we need to effectuate the removal of the colonists from this particular government structure that we have established and have been, you know, utilizing. It's still there. It's called the Moroccan Government. So, you know, if you got Moors running around here talking about we start our own government, what you're saying is you don't even know the history of your own people. You don't know the history of the land, because the government here is the Moroccan government. They just always refer to it as the government. It's the Moroccan government. And so we have to unite, and that so that we can, as one unit under the Moroccan government, we can begin to implement the Decolonization Act. That's what that's all about. And we look around the world at our family, and we can see how they've done that under unity. As long as, you know, even some of our family around the world that had internal strife going on, they united long enough to decolonize their land, their government, and, you know, and everything that goes along with that. And now, once they decolonized, they might have went back to fighting, but they united long enough to boot off the colonists.
To boot them out. But isn't that what we're looking at in a way now, because that happened, and these modern Europeans can't really go anywhere without being on guard, you know, because of all the dirt they've done? Isn't that kind of why it's so important for us now, because they're trying to make this land their last stand?
Well, it is. It is, because, look, and, you know, people don't understand how serious this is. Look, these colonists have gone all around the world, and they've implemented the same plan every single time, all right? Because, see, the whole name of the game for colonists is, who don't have a nationality, is to denationalize everyone else. That is the name of the game for the colonists, because they do not have a nation, you know, and they don't have a nation, really. I mean, even though their nation is called the United States of America, the United States of America is a corporate construct, really. That's all it is. But they don't have a landmass called their own. This is why, you know, they try to denationalize people, you know, in every way that they can. And one of the most ridiculous forms of denationalization is to ask people, well, where were you born? And we're now what they're saying is, geographically, you are wherever you were born, geographically. Now, Now, what that means to the people, and I know people may not have thought about this, is if your mother was born, for example, my lineage, my family lineage is from the landmass they refer to today as Jamaica. But a lot of my family, we were born over in what's called Great Britain. So according to what the colonists have set up, my mother and my father are Jamaican, but I am British. If you look at that, there's no, and then I have children in the landmass that they call the United States. So my children are supposedly members of the United States. There's no bloodline connection there.
Right, denationalizing. That's what denationalizing.
There's no bloodline. My parents are Jamaicans. I'm British. My children are supposedly American. There's no bloodline connection. We're not connected at all.
That's a denationalizing.
That's a denationalization. Absolutely. Your nationality will never be based on the geographical location of birth. It can never be based on that because that's denationalization. You gotta understand that, though.
And that's why the covenant of the Asiatic nation says, "Prefer not a stranger over thine own blood."
That's right.
Oh man, the prophet was awesome. Okay, all right.
And do not prefer a stranger. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you and your family are in like if y'all come together, it's this is gonna come to blow. There's gonna be some blows. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you're the same blood. It's about blood.
Yeah. That's like your example too. Then would be if you right now went over to China and had a baby or was pregnant and had the baby that it's an assumption that the baby's Chinese. That's crazy. No, it couldn't be.
Right. Okay. That's right. This is how they gain control of the people and they create of the people cargo. They speak about the people as though they're cargo. When you look at these departments or these agencies that the President of the United States of America is in charge of, all right, you have to ask yourself what actually comes out of these departments and how does it interact with the people? And then that the people fall under the control of any one of these corporate agencies that, by the way, are not constitutionally sanctioned at all.
That's right.
All right? These things that are happening, they're happening because the vast majority of the people, whether you want to call yourself a Moor or a modern European, you don't know the supreme law of the land because the supreme law of the land can never be a commercial transaction.
How about that?
Colonizers, namely, and here's the other thing that people need to look at. These people, Trump, listen to what I'm saying, people. Trump is a public servant. Trump is public servant. Trump is a public servant. All right? Now, people have become extremely confused about the master-servant relationship. The servant is never supposed to be telling the master what to do. The master is always supposed to be telling the servant what to do. That is the relationship that has been established per the American Constitution. That's why in the 9th and 10th Bill of Rights, it says all powers are delegated. All powers are delegated. You're delegating to the servant what they can do for your benefit. for your benefit, the people's benefit. And don't let them try and tell you that it is supposed to only benefit Americans. All right? Let's not get that twisted, because this land was always the land of the free, home of the brave. People from all around the world was always coming to this particular landmass to study, to learn, to grow, to absorb culture, whatever. And they were never restricted, and they were safe, and they were free. And what's really and truly ironic, absolutely, is that Trump's lineal descendants, if we had to put up the block back in the 1700s that he wants to put up today, he would not be here.
How about that?
Him and all of the people sitting in what they call the White House, because White House, ain't no white people up in there, all right? All of them modern Europeans in the White House, if we had put up this block back then that he's trying to put up today, and those wishy-washy people who are afraid to confront Trump is backing, none of them would be here today. None of them. You got to remember. You got to remember. They got to remember their history. All right. You can't turn around and do to people today what was not done to you and your lineal descendants. All right, because
that's arrogant. Yeah, that's just
absolutely arrogant. And then look at who he is targeting. The people who allowed you to come here was Islamic. That's right in the Barbary Treaty, Article 11. The people who allowed you to come here was America. This land is based on Islam. It is based
Obama
on
affirmed
Islam.
that. Obama affirmed that in his speech.
It's right. It's based on Islam. For you, colonists, to come in and then try to block the very people, this is their homeland. Anybody who is of our Islamic, creed, this is their homeland. This is their homeland more than you. Because this land is based on Islam.
That's true. And it says in one of I can't remember the document. I'm a little tired now, but it says this country was not built on Christian religion, and it definitely says it's built on Islam. I mean, that's a fact. So imagine that. And what about the initial request? Because I remember you explained to me when I found that initial request to the address to the Mexican Republic, the so-called Mexicans. This is the Mexican, right? And I know they were dark-skinned people, melanated at that time, because it's already been documented that everyone they found here was dark melanated, all right? And they appealed to them in handwritten form. I have it on the site, asking for peace and treaty of peace because we have to live here together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What about that? What about that admission? Yeah.
And what about in the Constitution it says there shall be no religious test? Now he's enforcing a religious test that if it had been imposed on him, he would have failed. Because this land is based on Islam, and the religious test that would have been put forth if we were to go that route, it would have been Islamic. Because this land is based on Islam. But because the Constitution forbids religious testing, you got people like Trump sitting in the seat of the President of the United States of America, who only has executive powers. People, y'all need to read that American Constitution. All people need to read that Constitution, study it. You need to wake up. You need to breathe that Constitution, both Moors and modern Europeans. And we need to get together and we need to put these public servants in their place because they're grossly out of control. When a public servant can live better than the master, something is wrong. Something is very wrong.
What about
when the public servant? Wait a minute. When the public servant is loaning finance to the master, something is very wrong.
There we go. and then coming to collect and making a debtor's prison and stuff like that.
With interest. Coming to collect with interest. How the hell can that happen? And then you want to talk about this is a capitalistic society. It was never a capitalistic society because capitalism is a form of enslavement because capitalism is really the game of Monopoly. If I can buy up all the resources, it doesn't matter whether you're Aboriginal or indigenous or not. You'll always owe me. And you'll owe me to the point where I can make it so that you have nowhere to live, you don't have any water to drink, and you have no resources to put clothes on your back. That's a capitalistic society. This country was never based on capitalism. That's some bullshit that modern Europeans made up to steal the resources and the inheritance of the people.
And it's not. It's a fiction.
If you want to see an excellent example of capitalism, watch that McDonald's movie. Watch that because it's the Ray Kroc who actuated the McDonald brothers' idea was nothing more than a thief. He's a thief. And that's what all of these people who are running corporations are doing. They're stealing from the people, and the people are paying for it. Instead of the people, hey, how about we be like our family over in New Zealand, or how about we be like our family over in Romania and rise up and put these damn public servants in their place instead of, cowering. Listen, turn off the damn TV. Stop watching it because that's all they're doing is enacting. They're playing. They are enacting a role. They're giving you the false impression that they're talking about a solution when they're really saying nothing. Because they know that y'all don't know words anyway, so they can say anything. Because the vast majority of people don't even know words, don't know what words mean. It becomes like what's that movie that show it Living Color? Remember the brother that was in prison and he studied and he would use words that made absolutely no sense, but they sounded good. That's what's being acting in the media today, and people are falling for it.
Redfish, bluefish.
People are falling for it, and because it's giving you this false sense that, well, you know what? Somebody's taking care of it. Oh, they on the ball. Oh, look, they talking about this. Yeah, they're going to fix this. They ain't going to fix this. Not you. They ain't going to fix this. Yes. Yeah. And so what happens? You settle down and go back to sleep.
Yes. Yes. It is. It's talking heads. But, you don't know that until you do some studies, right? And here's the thing. Because we're so mentally enslaved to believe whatever they say, you or I or someone else out there listening can tell somebody something that is the absolutely correct in the truth, and they will not receive it because they said, no, they said on TV, on the news, such and so and so, you know, and they cannot receive it. And that's what's happening, like, even right now with all of this going on right now. Some people are going to find themselves realizing this is really the time. We know it's the time for nationality. We know that. And we know that their stuff is really over. And so, you know, some will realize, wow, this is a great time if we, not an if, because it is a great time, because all of this is going to stop and it's going to be in our hands, and we're still going to have to deal with whatever it is we need to deal with. And I think that's why the prophet said man will find himself where he can solve his problems best, because it's going to be, it's a forced situation. It's going to be in your hands, and you're going to have to make some changes, because all of the things that you were, which are really excuses, unknown to you, they were excuses, unknown to us all, maybe, they're going to be gone. Now what? You're going to be forced to. And then you're going to realize how much the stuff they really say, they plan it that way. They come at it this way. So, like Min said earlier, what we're actually seeing, but we might not even be able to see it if we don't know, is they are imploding on each other. They're imploding. The whole thing is imploding. Wasn't it, one of you told me about, I don't know if it was you and either Ms. We were talking about how a congressman or somebody in Congress pulled a gun out on one of them, on each other.
Oh, wow, no. That wasn't me.
Huh? That wasn't you, Miss. Did you mention that?
I don't know. Was it? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't remember anything like that. I remember a couple of years ago a judge pulled a gun out on the bench, a firearm out on the bench.
No, this is recent. I got it on my phone. You know what? I'm going to pull it out. I thought y'all want to use something to me. Maybe somebody else knows. I recently stacked that. But it doesn't matter. That's what they're going to do with each other. And that's going to spill out into the streets on the people. It's going to be something, but like we're saying, if you don't really have the foundation, foundation information, you're going to be feeling really lost and confused about what's happening right now.
Mhm.
Mhm. And that foundational information can definitely be found in the work that Prophet Majority left for us to study. It's right. It's all right there.
Yes, it is. I mean, you know what? If Trump doesn't do anything, all right, he's going to make everybody pull out a copy of the American Constitution and start studying it. Because, look, for those Moors who think the Constitution was suspended, here it is in your face. Not only has it not been suspended, it is being talked about everywhere. Everywhere. Yep, it's being talked about. Look, you can't do that. You can't do that, Mrs. Trump. It's unconstitutional. Excuse me? I thought the Constitution was suspended.
Yeah, it's not.
The Constitution. Oh, Mr. Trump has the constitutional authority. I thought the Constitution was suspended.
Right. Well, they said they made people think that so that they would be off the track and they wouldn't enforce it, and that's how they took advantage. You know.
Yep.
Now
that's
it's like,
right.
oh shoot, that was the lifesaver. I should have grabbed it. Dang. Go backtrack. You know, catch up or whatever. And
exactly. And you know, one of the posts, and I think we spoke about this on the previous broadcast. I put up there's a post on the MHHS Eyes Wide Open Facebook page, and it reads: "Democracy is defined as the absence of hereditary or arbitrary class distinctions or privileges." Now, they always talking about this class distinction or class of people, but really they make it seem like it's a bad thing. But then when you look up that word hereditary, it speaks to inheritance. So nationality is a type of class necessary. Why is it necessary? Because your nationality determines the law that applies to you. The first thing that has to happen is once it is determined what nationality you are, is do we have a treaty between us that dictates the activity that will go on? And if some lack of activity has gone on, then how do we deal with it? You deal with it based on the tenets of the treaty. But if you don't have a nationality, anything goes. So why is this? Why is democracy pushed? Because democracy eliminates a nationality. And to those who do not have a nationality that is ancient and ties one to the land, i.e. sovereign, okay, then the removal of one's nationality is the first, and this is why the first thing terrorists do is destroy one's nationality, heritage, and religion, as all are tied together.
That's why you declare the nationality and religion.
Exactly. So now when you look at the Aboriginal indigenous people of this land, what's their nationality? The majority of them don't know. What is their religion? They claim a Christian religion of which they know not.
Right? That's right. Oh, that's the prophet said. That's what the prophet got to interject the prophet say there. He said, "You strayed after strange gods of yours, of which you knew nothing about." That's it. I like that part because he didn't just say you strayed after strange gods. He added, of which you knew nothing about as well.
Exactly. And then lastly, they have nothing to speak of in terms of their heritage because they think that, because I don't know where I come from geographically, I don't know what people I belong to, and so because I don't know what people I belong to, I don't know our culture and customs. Are you kidding me? Your culture and customs is based on a geographical location, and you can't look in the mirror and see that you're tied to every melanated person on planet Earth. But if you can't see those things, your nationality, your heritage, and your religion, then you don't have a nationality. There's no treaty to determine the interchange between you and a foreigner. And by the way, Trump is a foreigner on American soil, talking about we're going to limit the foreigners coming into the land. And then one of the reasons why, I was looking at this video, the Young Turk, where they were talking initially about Trump and some of the ridiculous things he was doing, but then it went into this modern European daughter, and she was talking about their vetting process. I didn't have time to look up this word vetting and really see what it means etymologically, but because based on what she was saying now, if they're going to allow a foreigner to come into this country, this landmass that they're identifying people coming into the United States, ain't nobody coming into the United States because the United States is a corporate construct. Nobody is in the United States and nobody is coming into the United States because it's a freaking corporation. However, they got this whole vetting system set up to allow foreigners into the United States. So I'm like, well, what is that? And what exactly does it mean? And then she goes into this elaborate process. The elaborate process takes about 13 months or something. It's a long time. It's not a quick thing, and that is their protection. I don't know who. Their protection when it comes to allowing foreigners in. Well, God dog it, we should have had this damn vetting process in place back in the 1600s, and we wouldn't have all these goddamn colonizers on Moroccan soil today. But it's a turning of the table when the foreigners have implemented a so-called vetting system to allow the Islamic to come home. I mean, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
They have set up an elaborate vetting system, Islamic faith or principles from coming home to Islam. Foreigners. We should have set this. We should have set that up back in the 1600s, so that we could have prevented their asses from being on Moroccan soil today. We wouldn't be having any problem.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't. They were left here to die, though, remember, by the British, the original slaves, just being slaves. We was helping them out.
You know
we
what?
were really
Yes.
being
They came here. Look, it's coming out all over the place. I got a text today. I sent it to you guys of a book I'm trying to get a hold of. This book is entitled The Complete Book of Immigrants, Emigrants in Bondage. Speaks of the modern Europeans, how they came over here as slaves and their owners were from Great Britain. All right, that would be your brutish Moors. All right, so the books are flooding. The book is, this is the age of information. You can't stop the flow of energy. You can't stop the flow of information. It's like somebody has opened up a drawer and dropped all of these books that has the historical relevance and truth that the original slaves was modern Europeans. And then, and before, I got to say this, because Ray Kroc, look at this now. Ray Kroc, they asked, why you just didn't use your name for this elaborate establishment instead of McDonald Brothers? If you do the etymology on McDonald, anything represents the Aboriginal indigenous people of the land they call Ireland today. So McDonald, more than likely, is some derivative of a Moorish appellation. He said, this is in the movie, he said, I could have used Kroc because Kroc is a Slavic name. He said it in the goddamn movie. Apologies for the profanity, but he says in the movie, Kroc is a Slavic name. If you know the etymology of Slavic, you know his people were slaves.
Right. That's where they come from, Slavic.
His people were slaves. He come over to a Moroccan soil and stole the resources of the land, stole from people ideas and concepts and principles, and created this monster empire that today is known as the McDonald Corporation, and he has a side corporation. I can't remember the name, but it's some real estate company where he goes and buys up the real estate, and then he comes in with the McDonald's Corporation to establish McDonald's. This from a slave. You go all around the world, you see evidence of the slave, Ray Kroc. That's called capitalism, where a slave can take the resources of the land, the heritage from the people, and then turn the people into slaves, and now he lives off of the inheritance of the people, a former slave himself. Look at that. You got to watch the movie. Okay, so now, look, we've been talking long enough. Let's take some calls. Much to talk about. If you have a question, comment, concern, press 1 on your telephone dial, and we will begin taking callers.
All right.
Caller 773-619. 773-619. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwestern Mexican.
Islam family, this brother Roscoe Bay.
Islam.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't really have any proof, but there's some things that I've kind of paid attention to over the past couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
One thing was I sat down and I read in depth the general order. Was it General Civil Order, June 10th, 2014. And they revealed a lot of information in that. I also came across a video that John Kerry had with the Prime Minister of Morocco. I think that was last year. I also paid attention to
the Kingdom of Morocco, right?
Yeah, the Kingdom. Yeah, the Kingdom of Morocco.
Yeah, because there is no Prime Minister of Morocco.
Well, according to the video, that's how they did it. You know, I know sometimes they throw stuff out.
That's the Kingdom of Morocco.
Okay. I also noticed, well, with this propaganda that Trump and them were trying to pull, they're throwing out 7 countries. Seven. Okay. That's what I'm really focusing on. All right. Then if we go and we read the Constitution, we read the Articles of Confederation, the Bill of Rights, and the treaty mainly right now with this situation. They're capturing Moors, vessels, and they're telling them they can't come on the land. And this is just my understanding of the treaty. Then we have this situation that's been going on for a couple of months with this authentication of this birth certificate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's been going on for more than a couple of months.
Well, I just poured
They poured it on. They had no idea what they go ahead, brother. Share it with the staff. No idea what they were doing.
And I'm just looking at a sequence of things that just caught my attention, along with this so-called 13 weeks that these attorneys were talking about. 13 weeks. Okay. I also had a brother who claims that, you know, he's a good Moor, but he's affiliated with, I'm going to say, the sword over the star, which is alarming to me. That's alarming to me.
All right. I know what you mean. No, he's saying he's affiliated with that order.
Okay, exactly. That's alarming to me.
We did see that. Yeah. Now they're cutting the children off. Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to get too deep in it, but just to let y'all know, it's alarming to me because my grandmother kind of taught me some things about signs and symbols and things we do for. Now, with that being said, now we sat here and we said, you know, it's our time. It's our time. Me personally, I'm seeing they're even throwing signs to see what we're going to do. They're using science. They're using some serious science on the TV that the average person don't know. The average person not going to catch up on. You know, the whole thing with 7 countries, they're throwing some serious science at it. Then the judges are stepping in, and they're not really telling these attorneys, and they're not talking about the treaty. They're talking about a bunch of gibberish that really ain't got nothing to do with nothing. When it comes down to why the judge is saying, y'all can't do that.
Constitution. Along with
Trump talking about building a wall. Now, in the Quran, I can't remember the exact verse. In the Quran, it says something about building walls or creating walls. That they weren't supposed to be able to do that. It seems like they're testing us to see what we know. And what we're supposed to know is based off who we really are and what we gave them.
Can only be what you know.
I just wanted to throw that in. I wanted to throw that out to the family to give them something, you know, to really think about. When we say it's our time, and they're waiting. They throwing stuff to see what we're going to do. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're seeing a lot of affidavits coming in. They're seeing a lot of terminology on paper. So they starting to see, okay, they're sending the paperwork. What are they going to do?
All we really have to do is make the claim if we understood what it was is declare our nationality, which determines our political allegiance, and that's really all we have to do. But as you say, we have to do it and know what it means, and know
the doing that we as a people need to do is we need to begin to close ranks. That's what we need to do, close ranks. Because, and that basically what that means is just simply to close up all. Look, oh my goodness, the prophet said, hold on a minute now, because I think I put this on, and it just dawned on me what he's saying. The prophet, just so absolutely brilliant. It's just amazing that, some of the things that we're getting now. But look, what did he say? I put it in one of these quotes. I put it in one of these documents, and now it's coming to me. It's coming to me now, right? Because he said, I have fixed everything. I have stopped up every rat hole. I have stopped up every rat hole, right? Yeah. Now, what that means is we as Moors got to close up ranks and helping up all these rat holes. Can't be no penetration within the family nowhere. Close up ranks. That's what we need to do. And by closing up ranks, what does that mean? That means that we're not participating in anything that divides the family. Nothing. Because the reason why they throw out, oh yeah, we're gonna build this wall. Yeah, it's gonna create all these jobs for people. And because you got a lot of Moors that haven't embraced being an ancient merchant, they want a job, they will fall for that crap. And they will help to build the wall, and we can't do that. We got to close up ranks. We got to not participate.
That's right.
In the prisons today, if you go into any of these prisons that they have established, the people working in there, it's our people. Our people watching our people. We got to close up ranks. We got to help the prophets, and what did he say? Blocking up all of these rat holes. That's what we have to do. That's the action. That's the action right there. That was from the prophecies and statements by Prophet Noble Jurali. And here it is. It's time for that prophecy to be fulfilled. Don't you think?
Absolutely. It's already being fulfilled. Yes, it is. And it's being fulfilled. The question now is for the people to determine where are they at, because it's going down. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's long. It's long, brother. I thank you so much for that, because, that's something for everybody to think about. And
well, this is the brother that his grandmother and his mother taught him. Look for them signs and symbols. So he knew. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's take our next caller. All right. Caller 430228. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico. Caller 430228. All right. Caller 972-839. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico.
What's on, fam? Can you hear me?
Islam, yes, we can.
This is Abdul Malik Sabir Shakur Bey. I'm calling from Northwest Mexican Texas territory. Y'all having an on-point show tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Y'all having another on point and great show tonight. What is all Asiatic and Moor descent need to be listening to. Now, if they would read out of the Holy, if they got one, and I advise, go to R.B. Bay Publication, or your Second Seven Quran, out of chapter 47. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanite from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. Abraham and his family were second. Then in the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of a Mexican. The first and true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son, the dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father, dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Land joined them. The Muslims from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan, seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitants extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. Many of our own has been working with them. I'm talking about the European. Slavery is a connotative. Slavic, we know who the real Slav is. If you don't know who the real slave is, which is really an identity, it describes who they are and what they are. If you are seeking remedy, you are declared incompetent. Oh, you are more? You are Moabite? Well, this is America. Well, let's go on. So you are Brown Freeman. That's what you are. Obama, coming through the double door, representing the higher self and the lower self. Michelle, his wife, wearing a red dress, and the Moorish flag is to the left. Obama made the declaration to the communities and the world that the American Constitution is derived from Muslim law. He made the declaration to the world. Yes, he did. One of the major issues here that the Asiatic don't know, that they're standing on Africa. The concept is that, as we know that Africa and Africa alone, you're in grave error. You need to know what is north, south, east, and west, and know your longitude and latitude. Well, let me continue. All of them know, the politicians, the pastor, the civic leaders, all who are governmental officials and working hand in hand under the brotherhood or whatever society that they claim that they are joining or affiliated to, that the land that they are standing on is Morocco. Yes, it's true. The preamble of the Constitution, and if I had a road and I know what I know today, we, the Moorish people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and to secure for our Moorish people first, and to those who agree to come and live under these love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, shall enjoy the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. We do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Islam.
Islam.
Oh,
Islam.
it's right there. You just said it. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next caller. Caller 443-376. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation in Northwest Maxim.
Islam. Peace and greetings, family. I am Hassan Ghazi Obey, Northwest Maxim. How are you, family?
Islam. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to say excellent class, great energy. Yes, peace and greetings, beloved amazing. That's all. That's it. That's all. I just wanted to say great class, excellent class, and a lot for me to just go back and I study on. But thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Islam, peace and love.
Islam.
All right, peace and love.
Hit it and quit it. Like, yep. He be making so quick. Hit it and quit it. Just want to say, yep, Islam, all right.
All right. All right. Well, that is our last caller with in the queue, waiting to ask a question. Oh, wait a minute. Got one more, and we still got like maybe 30 minutes. So if there's anyone who would like to ask a question, we'll pose a comment or a concern. Press 1 on your telephone dial. All right, caller 415-941. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Maxim.
Islam family, this is Sister Amala calling from New Jersey, Corporation, Northwest Maxim.
Islam.
Islam, it's always, an honor. I'm so glad that I tuned in today because I've been, running rampant, and I was just like, wow, man, just to see you all, just the consistency, the authenticity and the passion, that you have. And I was just listening to Annie Ede when she shared about McDonald's, and I'm just like, wow, sometimes it's frustrating when you hear this because it's like everything that we do, being the originators, someone comes after us, steal it and claim it as their own. You know what I'm saying? And in this day and time, it's a little frustrating because it's like, for example, I was online and I saw somebody sharing how one of the Kardashians was the founder of Pearson Nails, and I'm like, really? This has just gone too far now, because when we look back at ancient times, the original women had the piercings of all kinds, from the lip to the mouth to the breast and all over, it was traditional. And it's just like everything that we do. I don't know if y'all saw a video where the brother was doing some type of empowerment and motivation with his students and before they would go in the classroom with this handshake. And then as soon as the brother do it, they give all of this light to a European who comes in and doing it. And it's like, listen, it's gone wild. But I share that to say is that moving into the, I guess, mindset or the workings of being just like merchants, I wanted to ask Roz Mariah Annie Eve, in terms of women, what type of advice would you give to sisters who have the mindset to a certain degree but don't have the support or all of the business aspects, So it's like, part of you feel like, yes, I want to be a merchant, business owner, etc. But in the meantime, I got to, do the JOB thing or whatever. What type of advice and what type of, input would you give to a sister who is, really striving on that path and just, in terms of becoming a merchant and being a merchant, what would you share?
Well,
because you all are merchants and, pardon me.
Well, no, I just want to say this, and then Annie, you may have a comment on that as well. But we have to understand that the idea, first and foremost, there are only two things. Really think about this: that anybody, I don't care who they are, could ever sell or trade. That's either a product or a service. That's it and that's all. So you're either going to sell a product for yourself or a service that you offer, whatever that service may be, or you're going to work for someone else who is selling a product or a service. So that's the first thing to just kind of look at like that. So, what category and or jurisdiction people put that action in is what has captured us into thinking. And I think Ms. hit it earlier when he was, and you're saying it as well, is that, if you got a JOB. Well, it's really a service. If you're selling a product, it's still some sort of, you're offering something, or you're doing a service like you do the service of cleaning, or you do the service of lawn, or you do whatever, hair, whatever. That's like a service. And then a product is, here's a pencil with a pen or whatever you're selling, and you sell it in the exchange or trade it. That's the first thing people need to recognize. What has harmed us, or what has infected us, is that these people have come upon us and whispered in our life and in our ear that in order to do that, we have to first get permission from them. Not true. And when you go out on your path or whatever you decide you want to do, you must focus on that, and you will find that you can make relations with other people. Like there's people who are in the business of making anything, like even license. I'm just going to use that. It might be a bad example, might not be. I'm not sure. There's a place that takes the right of making plates, as an example. They don't give a daggone what you want on the plate because they're in the business of making plates. We're brainwashed into thinking it has to come through this jurisdiction or under that person that says so, that says that they are the authority. So this is where it looks as if it's a belaboring thing to be able to come out of what we're going to refer to as a JOB and, and go into being what we call self-employed. But self-employed is not the right word either because all that is corporate jargon. You're either selling a service or you're selling a product. Now, as far as etiquette, and business means busyness. So, they just take everything and they turn it into a jurisdiction issue and then put things in front of us to belabor us or make it so that it's difficult to reach that end, and they brainwash us into thinking it's something that it really is not. So the reason why I believe in that, and you can comment on that, I'm sure, we say we're the original merchants because we're original merchants. But when you're talking about someone saying they're doing commerce, then they gotta have a product to do the commerce. So it's the matter of the way in which we look at what we're doing, look at what we want to do, and the restriction that has been put on us in doing it. You just build your relations. You just, there's somebody that makes the product of whatever it is that you sell, and they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop making that because that's what they do. And so then you have a relationship with them, and you might buy you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that that's been brainwashed in us.
I'll say this. In my generation, everybody had a side gig. Everybody. And
back in the day.
And your side gig was you was supposed to eventually become your main source of finance. The only reason you had a job was so that you could, continue and finance your side gig. Today, these modern Europeans have mentally programmed the next generation to be what appears to be very lazy. Very, very, very lazy. Like nobody has a side gig. Nobody. When I still have a side gig. My side gig is my permanent, my main gig, But when my mother worked at United Technologies as an executive secretary to fund her side gig. She was a master seamstress. My uncles work at they I forget the name of the place down here. They made airplanes. He worked there to fund his side gig of putting up, doing like at that time I think they called it carpentry. Never had a license to do anything. But he would he would create a room out of nothing, if that's what you wanted, and he would put in electrical outlets, because you needed an extra one. He would run wire. If you needed to run wire somewhere, he was there to do that. So everybody, I have a cousin. His full-time job was, I forget what he did, something in accounting, but his side gig was accounting. He had like X amount of accounts on the side. We were very industrious people. We didn't have time to sleep and sit down and do nothing. We was busy. But because
the problem is that we need to be industrious.
Right, exactly. And because we were busy, we didn't have time to get into other stuff because we was busy. All right? When I was working, at one point in my life, I worked 3 jobs, and I had a side gig. My 3 jobs funded my side gig. All right? But today, people are not that, they've been, what I see is people have been mentally conditioned by these modern Europeans, all right? Yeah. Because when I was in school, everybody was killing themselves to get into a trade school. Nobody is trying to get into a trade school anymore, all right? So
no, they don't let them.
It's in trade that you can have a type of a side gig, and they can be very productive. Because let me tell you, when my younger brother, he was going to school as an electrician. He was picking up his trade as an electrician, and while he was in school, he had side gigs. All right. So by the time he became an apprentice with a big electrical corporation, he already had customers.
But you know what, Annie? Can I add something? Because it just came to my mind when you started talking about trade. If you remember, they would call it like VOTEC or vocational or trade. And it was the people who said wasn't very smart. Wasn't very supposedly smart. They would say, "Oh, well, you need to go to the trade school." But the truth is the trade is what should happen. So guess what they've done? They've taken all of that out. Now, anyway, they raised the bar. They flipped that script because they just want to keep you zombie-like and working as a corporate slave. Slave as a corporate slave.
That's right.
Just don't do nothing. I want to add this too. The question, though, when you said about the women, now this is my position. There are certain things women always sold at the market and stuff like that. But the question should be this. I mean, what your question should be, but what we need to think about is that it is the sons that need that trade and learning. Like, for instance, you mentioned wiring, Anna Eve. Well, there's a code. There's safety regarding wiring. Now, and it's a code, these different codes. Well, guess what? They're all the science. All of them are the science. All of it. Because I used to have to go get certified to program electronic phone system and all, but I had to go get certified as if I was a technician wiring it, and I had to know the color code. Well, I find out that color code is based in the science, and we're supposed to be knowing these things. So if and I don't want to say that a woman's job is to just sell the wares or knit the cloth or whatever. I'm not saying that, because her main duty to raise up the home, to run the home and make sure that it's ready. It doesn't mean that she has to be in the home all the time. I'm just saying. And the children that come out of it, they're people to society. And husbands, which are house binders, because that's where husband comes from, are supposed to make sure that things are provided that is needed to support that foundation. So when we say, well, what can we do? Because it really doesn't matter as long as whether you're male or female, as long as the job is getting done. When we look at it that way, we have to come up out of, again, what has been impressed upon us. They have infiltrated into everything as permission and authority from them. It's sad, even in the home where they've infiltrated the family services stuff, and taking people's babies and stuff, destroying the family structure. But I think that mechanics, and then when I say mechanics, I don't mean a car necessarily. I mean the logistics of things, how things are built. If you know how something is made, the components of it, you can break it down, put it back together. And this is just mental, none of us, and I'm a woman and I use a screwdriver, so I'm not saying that only men should use screwdrivers, but learning anything, they've taken us towards some illogical stuff. We have to get back to the what? Basics. And when we get to the basics, then we can be industrial, as Annie Eve is saying, because we know how to build. And when I say build, I don't mean necessarily build a house. That's what's missing. Whether
That's
it's
right.
clothing,
that's absolutely right.
And
you know what? Let me just say this. This has been my experience, all right? Because I've been, in my life, I've been in some trying situations. And I never had anybody that had my back. It was just me. And I can tell you that one of the other problem that we have as a people is, there's a story of the ship. There was a ship of men, and they was going to fight a battle, and they arrived at the destination, and the captain burnt the ship up. And they asked him, why you burned up the ship? He said, now you got to win. You got to win. You have no other choice but to win, because you ain't got nowhere else. You ain't got no boat to take you home. Too many of our people today, they got out. That makes them lazy. They got a ship that's gonna take them home somewhere. To use the analogy, when I was going, you had no ship. There was nobody. It was just you. You had to do it. If you needed, like for example, when I was growing up, look, I had to figure out a way to generate extra income. So my mother being a master, my mother and grandmother being a master seamstress, and my mother, she was like, She didn't teach me. You know, back in the day, they didn't sit you down and gave you no A, B, C steps. The way they taught you was stand over here and watch what I'm doing. So I'm not to stand over here and watch what you're doing, but I sit over long enough to get a sewing machine, a pattern, some cloth, and a seam ripper just in case I make a mistake. And I became a crazy seamstress. I was sewing whole outfits in a week. And I got so good that I started sewing for other people. All right? So that became one of my side gigs because I had others. I'm not the type of person I like to. Back when I was doing my own hair, I don't like people I don't know in my hair. I've always been that way. So I would go to the hairdresser with my mom, and I would watch what they did and watched what they used, and I went and got the same thing, and I did it on my own hair. And I got so good that people was calling me to their house to do their hair. So that became another side gig. All right? So, people have to find within themselves what they are good at. But you ain't never going to find out what you're good at if you don't try to do something.
Well, see, they call then what they do is this too. Again, I'm going to say how it's about the brainwashing and the training. They'll say, "Oh, you're hustling." They'll call what you do, if it's not a corporate job, a corporate job, then you're hustling. And then there's this negative terminology put on it. So now you got people growing up. They don't want to be called hustling. They systematically made it so that it's brainwashed, if you will, or programmed, if you will, to not want to reach out and do anything. That's why people say, "Well, what can I do? What should I do?" Or I can't do this because of that, or I need this license or whatever. No, that's not true. So thus the interjection of those things is what has suppressed us from being able to be industrious.
Well, like I said,
because if you really didn't want, someone really didn't want to quote unquote JLB and whatever that entails, why couldn't they go buy an item? I'm just saying this is simplistic, and resell it on resale instead of wholesale, or buy it wholesale and sell it retail. That's a basic thing.
Well,
that's
just commerce. That's commerce. That's that capitalistic bullcrap that they're doing right now. That's what they do now, and they can. And because that's what they promote. Like somebody, here's the quickest way to run you out of business: buy the same thing and sell it cheaper. Now you're out of business.
That's capital.
But see, what we did was, when I was growing up, a lot of people didn't go to the store to purchase anything because nobody would be caught dead wearing the same outfit that somebody else had. So a lot of people, if they either sewed, if they didn't know how to sew, they knew somebody who sewed, and they didn't have a problem paying them X amount of notes to sew something up for them. So everybody had some kind of a side gig going on. Everybody. And when
I was coming up in the neighborhood, you had corner stores everywhere that were credible corner stores. You had Mr. Hyman over here who was selling certain type of gear for the guys, to work in. You had the store over here that was selling the food that you needed every day. We stayed in our community, and the people in our community provided what was needed in it. But then again, what did they do? They squeezed that out too. So
they brought in the big corporations, the big corporate stores. And, but you know what? There's a lot of there's still a lot of corner stores, a lot of mom and pop stores that's still going on. They still out there. They just not in. It depends on if the people are going to, support him. I'm not quite sure if we answered your question, sister.
I know,
we got 2 more minutes.
Well, you answered it and then some. You answered it and then some. I was just sitting here like my sisters just took that and made it pop 10,000 times. And it's interesting that how you all kind of meshed into all of that, because that explanation really brought it full circle. And what, both of you all talked about, like Roz Mariah, is like, even when I homeschool my children, it's like we're not doing the standardized, everything that the public school is doing. You're watching me do what I'm doing, and then you're demonstrating, you know what I'm saying? So even when I do my doula services, my daughters, they're able to see that. When you look at a lot of other cultures, they're taking their children with them to work, and the children are learning, by 11, 12, 13, how to run those businesses, meaning run the business, the front desk, answer the phone, and doing these different types of things. And so I think that you all explained it, and then you went above and beyond to give examples on what being a merchant and being industrious is all about, and especially for our sisters. Pardon me?
I want to add one more thing for you real quick, only because you mentioned the age and you said 13, so I want to bring something else in. First of all, any child, the age of 7 is the age of reasoning. Everything is in increments of 7 in that respect. When a child is 13, you said it. You by that time you've brought them. They see what you're doing. They're ready and prepared with foundational, watching you do what you do to take over whatever that is. And that is the reason why, in the culture of the so-called Jews, at 13 is when they have a bar mitzvah and a bat mitzvah. Bar mitzvah for the males, bat mitzvah for the females. And at that point, they say, they have to know in their minds what business do you want to get into or how you want to handle your business. They give them the sort of like a diary on it. They already have in their mind what they're going to do because they've already been shown, as you just said. So keep that in mind too. That's what that is all about.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank
you,
Sister
Amala. All righty. Peace and love.
All right.
All righty. Caller 401-219. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Claudia L. from the Rhode Island territory. And I was just calling in to see if anybody's been watching the show on BET on I'm over here fogging. I think it's called Medina.
Medina?
Yeah, I think it's called Medina. It's on the president, the first black president, so-called black president from South Africa.
I forgot that they were showing that. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't have cable at all. So
I think you should check it out on YouTube. The first episode was like so many jewels will drop. Like it's ridiculous.
What was it? Is it called Medina or Mandela?
Medina.
It's about Mandela. It's about Mandela, but it's called Medina.
Medina is a title, and I think I can't remember what it means. Something like father or something, and it's something that actually it correlates to. It's either Mandela or some guy that was just as active before Mandela. But I haven't seen it. So.
There's a scene where Lawrence Fishburne playing Mandela, where he goes out in the street. Obviously, they're striking against the so-called government, and they burn their IDs, talking about we're prisoners in our own country.
Oh wow, that sounds like things they did in Hindustan, what Gandhi did with the British.
So that's something we need to watch. Mandela, Medina.
It's on BET.
All right, before we go though, can I put this question on the floor? Did you see when George Bush was speaking about Mandela? Like, no, that's a serious question to ask. Like, I know you saw that, Ma. Did everybody see that? Because that, in reality, is dangerous, fam. I'm just saying that because you know the subject was Mandela, and if you didn't see after this show, you have to Google George Bush on Mandela, and keep in mind that he was not dead when George Bush was saying this. I can't even explain it. You feel me, man? Like, this is something you just gotta see yourself if you haven't.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't even explain it. You gotta one has to listen to it to get it and see it. It's just like
you gotta watch it and listen at the same time. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he brought that up when he brought up Mandela. It made you think about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but to bring that up. So pardon me if I lost you, but the thing was, George Bush was talking about what happened to Mandela, and whatever frequency he was tapped into at that time, he went on to say Mandela is dead because Saddam Hussein killed all the Mandelas, plural. All right? I think Mandela was not dead, and Saddam Hussein emphatically didn't kill him because he wasn't dead. And that right there is a prime example of the slanderous, loose jaw-jacking things that they just say, man, and get away with half of it, you know? It's crazy. Crazy.
But now, if the brother's still on the line, it's called Medina. It's on BET, and is it a movie or a series?
I think it's a series.
It's a series. Okay.
I think it's a series.
I think it's a three-part series.
Yeah,
three-part series. Okay. Let me check it out.
You know, the best part is always the first part.
Yeah, because it opens up and sets the stage. That's why, right?
Yep.
Right, and then and that's interesting that it sets the stage. And sometimes those stages can be set and it can go over people's head because of the lack of knowledge they have. They don't even get it, right?
Yeah, that first episode, oh my God, I was so overwhelmed at what I was seeing. It's like there was repeating what you guys repeat every day.
Say that again?
They were saying everything that we talk about every day as Moor.
Wow. Wow.
It's that good, and it's Lawrence Fishburne playing that part. And, he played Morpheus,
Yes, and Boys in the Hood, he was and a whole lot of good stuff. Deep cover. And we're going to check it out, man, for certain. We're going to find it and check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that so everybody can check it out.
All right.
But thank you.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
All right. Well, that concludes this broadcast. Make sure and check us. We'll be at the National Theater live in the flesh tomorrow. Doors open at 6:30. Class begins at 7:30. So we shall see you there. And we thank you for joining us tonight. Peace and love.
All right. It's love.
Love.
Our problem is lack of knowledge and the intended
trickery done, because even those who read the bibliotext that you call the Bible says he shall fool even the most believe. So even those who think they're highly educated and this and that, they've been fooled. That's it. It's not really complicated.
It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it, to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows except those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. The gods are back, the Moors are strapped. We waking up, and we want our land back. Running off, that's a trap. You know them gods don't like that. Waking up from a nap, like where the hell my crown at? Take a step back, like I know this bitch ain't bite back. It's kinda crazy how this karma it strikes back. We enslaved the Slavs, so they slaved us right back. We called them niggas, then they niggered us right back. We brought them to light, but they ain't bring that right back. If I was lazy, dirty dancing with the baby, then maybe, then just maybe won't revolt like Haiti. I too smart, Lova, Tor, Marcus, Garvey, your ass. Nova, Julia, our leading, God body the man. Now I ain't gotta be bad, and you ain't gotta be mad, but the planet is heating up, so the first I'll be last. I got that melanin that's better than anything you ever medicine. We at your front door, wonder why you never let us in. Oh, I get it, you never wanted to put some credits in. Well, just forget it, cause I don't know if you can edit sin. We've been enlightened long before Thomas Edison. Skeletons to prove that you wasn't even relevant. In the Caucasus Mountains, cause the sun was your deficit. Captain Caveman with the plan of the Jesuits. Check my bloodline, but in time I bring the evidence. Self-governing body, so I don't need no president. Democrat, Republican, donkey versus elephant. I studied in law, so I ain't down with none of that. I self-law and master, so I'm running that. This Molotov counter burns faster, so I like the match. Despite the fact that ain't even what I'm mad at. I spit the truth, so here's the roof, so you can yeah that. My skin is brown and here's the proof, but you ain't hearing that. Dead in the eyes of the law, that's why they call you black. Naming all caps when you fall, that's why I strike back. And strike that from the record ab initio. You gon' need more than some pressure, I got a vicious flow. I can take the road to the high, or I can hit them low. Try to calcify my third eye, oh you gon' have to go. Chemtrails all over the sky, and you don't wanna know. Don't go inside of my tribe, they coming no more.
If you believe that your history started on a slave boat, I can guarantee you that's where it ended too. That's what I'm saying. Then, after saying that, and so believe me, go back and do some studies past the 1700s, and I'll guarantee you, sure as you're sitting there listening, or wherever you are, watching, listening, you will find nothing but the word Moor, and that's another thing. Because we weren't called black. That description, maybe, black or more or whatever, but that's it. Know the difference between a description and an actual, person, place, or thing, noun. I mean, really.
It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it, to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows except those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. From the pyramids to the project, the beginning is the part they want you to forget. Implant your memory with that noose around your neck. It's the King Alpha plan and it's set in full effect. The butler, the help, and 12 years a slave. Django and Selma, they get them accolades.